Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dena was just telling me that she loved that I don't do an announcer voice, so I figured, what the hell? Let's start this talk off with the announcer voice from hell. Here to join you today for our toilet talk on, I don't even know what the date is our illustrious and beautiful Dena Lynn.
And I'm over here laughing and sputtering because he actually did that. Oh, yeah. All right, it was impressive. Yeah. Yeah, it's, what is the date? It is Saturday, July,
28th,
29th?
The Monday is the 1st.
Yes.
So this must be the 30th.
Okay. You're kind of making me morph off screen there.
Oh,
Here we go.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
Damn announcer cameramen who don't know what they're doing anyway.
Well, you need to hire a flurry of cabana boys.
Yes, we have had the discussion lately that her cabana boy is often working too hard on other people's projects, and my cabana boy is nowhere in existence to be found.
He's invisible.
So, if you would like somebody to do an announcer voice for you, I can do that. I will trade for a good cabana boy.
Oh God. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm sure everyone out there, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, or some version thereof, that you get hit on by people on Facebook who are pretending to be romance scammers, date scammers. I got apprehended by a supposed 4-star general the other day.
Apprehended?
I approached.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I didn't know somebody else had caught you. I thought it was just me.
Nobody caught me. They chased me verbally around on a thread, but yeah, I mean there's a whole lot of people scamming other people, pretending to be real humans. Some are bots, some are, I don't know, sitting in a call center somewhere and pretending to be a celebrity or if a person is a widower with a young motherless child and he's looking for his life partner and you are so beautiful and he just can't help himself, odds are it's not a real person. And I had to look up this guy. I'm a military brat, so I was going to ask him some pertinent questions about where he went to war college, et cetera, but turns out, he wasn't that. I asked him whether his wife, the wife of the general, what she thought about him hitting on women on Facebook, and then he's apologizing, saying, "Oh, you're right. I'm trying to scam you. So you don't want to get married, but you're like a mother to me. And what if we had a mother-son relationship?" I'm like, dude, what's next? Do you want to know if I'm hiring cabana boys? And it's not like every person in the United States is wealthy and looking for staff. It's not a thing. It's been a weird week though, for people oddly approaching me, and not just on social media, but in reality. And I was just reading a post about that I'd written about that. So let's see, when did it start? I guess it was Saturday night. A knock was on my door. It was about 10:40 at night, and I was sitting with my son in my home, and my front door is downstairs. I heard a knock, and I got up to go look, and my son was saying, no, this is how people die in movies. Don't go look. And I looked out my front window, and I saw a rather large man, a large black man, walking away from my door. And I only mentioned that he's black because I live in the Pacific Northwest. And
Pacific Northwest?
Pacific Northwest. There are, unfortunately, few people of color in the region, and this particular town is known for being, unfortunately, it has a racist history and reputation, and very few people of color here. And I'm a military brat, and if you're a military brat, you grew up around all kinds of races and nationalities. And I lived in Washington, D.C., which is largely interracial, and so I was not used to coming to this town and not seeing people of color, or culture for that matter. Apparently both are frowned upon here. And I was a little startled visibly, and I had to check myself, because once upon a time, seeing a person of any nationality, any color, was just normal. And
meaning when you lived on the East Coast
when
and when you were in the military
places, yeah. It's taken a while to get used to it here, but I recognized my startle reflex showed me that, ooh, I got used to being in a largely white area. And it wasn't his skin tone, it wasn't his gender, it was, what are you doing? Knocking on a private door this late at night. And once upon a time, 10:40 on a Saturday night was like time to get going out, to go out for the evening, but not anymore. It's time to be quiet. And I went downstairs with my phone in hand, opened the door, and by now the man had crossed the street and he was standing on the other side of the street, and I had fear. Am I in danger? There was also a car parked on the other side of the street with its lights on, engine running, and I'm thinking things like, what, getaway car? Am I in danger? And my son came down. My son is 15 but bigger than me, and he had his phone ready, 911 ready to push. And by now I'm angry. My fear gave way to anger. How dare you make me scared in my own home? So I'm trying to be big and imposing and intimidating, standing on my front porch, all 5 foot 1.5 inches of me. And I said, what are you doing? And he spoke back saying, I need help. And now I'm torn, I'm conflicted, because on one hand, I want to help other people who may need help. On the other hand, what can I do? Single female late at night in a house, I was in a vulnerable position. And I'm torn, and I'm also aware that people who are predatory will often use the ploy of asking for help, whether it's someone wanting to abduct a child, saying, can you help me find my puppy or kitten, little boy, little girl, and getting the child off guard and taking advantage of their natural compassion. So I didn't know what it was up against, and all this is going through my mind in rapid succession. And I kept being firm with him, saying, well, this is not okay to do. And my neighbor came out and approached him, also a single female, and we weren't sure whether his story was accurate. He had claimed he'd gone to the police. So just to kind of wrap up this chapter, we both verified his story with the police. He'd also gone to the local hospital down the street. I don't know why he was in Dallas, Oregon. I don't know why he didn't know anything about the town, how he got here. You have to drive to get here. And I don't know why people were turning him away, aside from there are no facilities to help people in need, sadly. And I wish I had felt more confident, secure, to be able to say to him, here's a blanket, here's a pillow, because he wanted to sleep at the church down the street and see if they could help him in the morning. Again, don't know his story, but now, it kind of breaks my heart that I wasn't able to extend help and kindness to somebody who was genuine and in need. Makes me angry that I live in a world where I have to live on guard. So the next incident, and all this happened within like a week, less than a week. The next incident, I had stayed at Robin's house in Salem, and I went out for a run, as is customary. And we're in a heat wave, which is kind of uncustomary. It's a little longer than a typical heat wave. And I had I'd gone out running. I had shorts on and a tank top, and I had hiked up, rolled up the tank top to get maximum breeze on my torso, because I was quite overheated. And I'm concentrating on the run. I am not trying to appear attractive in any kind of a way. I'm in survival mode. And I went around in one corner, and a man on a bicycle crossed the other way. I continued down the road, maybe 2/10 of a mile, and I hear a bicycle coming up alongside me. I'm on the sidewalk, he's on the curb, not far away. And he starts catcalling me. Whoa, baby, sexy body, I'll tap that, show me more of that. Oh, just like, and I'm thinking,
This wasn't me, by the way.
no, I would have had a very different response if he'd said that. I'd be like, whoa, okay. I don't know anything about this guy. I'm a stranger to him, and I'm thinking, dude, did this approach ever work for you like 30 years ago, maybe? And so you haven't deviated from this approach? It was not working with me. I was angry that I cannot go for a run daylight, 11 in the morning, on a public street without getting unwanted attention. And there are ways to compliment a woman. He could have said something like, whoa, you're in great shape, or look at you go, or there are ways to authentically compliment a woman who you may find attractive in some kind of a way. That's not insulting, assaulting, or threatening. And I wanted to like give him all of that, like disseminate all of that. And what's your thought? You're having a thought. He's having a thought. He's having a laugh.
Just realizing that the word disseminate and inseminate are like somewhat similar.
Oh. Yeah, I don't want to be inseminated while I'm out running. I'm sorry, I have boundaries, and that's a hard one right there. You're making me look like I'm surviving an earthquake.
It's the Star Trek. It's the Star Trek school of toilet talk videos. You know, where you're supposed to like 1, 2, 3 shift. You know, it's like do the Shatner maneuver.
That was fun. All those things are going through my mind. Again, it's like rapid thoughts and words and things I want to say and things I want to do, and I want to like reach out and connect with his humanity and say, dude, let me help you learn how to approach women. And then I'm angry that I have to go educating complete strangers, and I don't have time for this. It's hot and I want to get back and get some water. And what came out of my mouth was, stop. And I did this. Stop. I am not interested in your opinion. Go on. And not incredibly brilliant. And he did. He kept going. Now, he kind of kept pace with me on his bike for a while. And I'm thinking, where can I go where I don't have to keep being shadowed by this dude? And then finally he turned off. And he was, as he was going, he was muttering epithets at me. You know, I went from whoa baby to bitch pretty quickly. And that happens often. It's the approach, the supposed rejection. It's like I wasn't available for acceptance. And then the insults. It's unfortunately very common, both in social media and on the street. And then the next day, I'm back here in my town, and I'm out running again. And no, I was walking. It was too hot to run. I was walking. And I see a woman standing in front of the county jail. And I'm walking alongside the county jail because it's a tall building in their shape. And I see her animatedly talking, just holding her cell phone, and she's waving her arms around and yelling at somebody. And I'm wondering, who is she yelling at in front of the jail? And I came closer and I realized there's nobody there. There's nobody in front of her, and she's just yelling at this imaginary, whoever was in her mind. I'm thinking, okay, drugs, mental health issues, combination, and I want to go around her, behind her, so as not to disturb her or get her attention. And as I went past her, she saw me, and suddenly whatever was in her head got projected onto me, and she starts calling me a bitch, and who the hell do you think you are getting in my way? I wasn't in her way. I was trying to go on about my business, but I became her target. And there were a couple of men crossing the street, including a police officer, and she kept yelling at me, came toward me like she was going to, and I had to turn around in the middle of the street and say, stop, I am not your enemy. And I wish I'd had the presence of mind with her, with the man who was across the street the first time, and maybe the guy on the bicycle, to say, how can I help? Because in each of these cases, what occurs to me now, there was an unmet need. And it's not as though I have the solutions for everybody, but I wanted to change it from this, I'm the perceived victim, they're the perceived assailant, to more of a common ground. I'm a human, you're a fellow human, you have some kind of need, and you don't know how to get that need met, so you're lashing out. And if I could keep the presence of mind to say to this person, to humanize them, me, the situation, and say, how can I be of help? I want to intentionally prepare myself for the next time, because there's going to be a next time, because people are unhinged. Have you noticed? People are unhinged. I'm unhinged. We're all unhinged. This is an unhinging time in history. And I want to do my part, if I can, to de-escalate and meet people on common ground and recognize we're all in this together. So how can I be of help? And I may not be able to, other than like right then make eye contact and let them know I see you. That's my lesson for the week, is to be more present, more intentional when the next sort of thing happens.
No,
What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I remember this issue coming up over and over and over again in kind of my consciousness in my life. One of the most prominent examples I can think of the dilemma in providing humanitarian assistance versus the stark reality is that when we become vulnerable enough to provide humanitarian assistance, whether it's for a single person or a group of people, man, woman, black, white, whatever, there's always a choice to be made. There's always the choice to put yourself in harm's way and give the assistance, or keep yourself safe and not give the assistance. There's always that choice, always.
Or to assault back and then escalate road rage situations.
That still falls underneath the category of not to respond, to not help, but rather to react to the danger or perceived danger with physical with a physical response.
Right.
So it's been a dilemma that I've thought about for a long time, and one of the best examples I can think of is the movie with Robin Williams, and that's Patch Adams. And there's the scene where there's this, they've opened up this clinic, they've opened up the Gesundheit clinic, and they're giving free help with volunteers and the resources that they have available. And there's this man who obviously has some learning disabilities and emotional or psychological or mental or all of the above issues, and he ends up reaching out to the young lady who is the love of Robin Williams' life in the movie, and I can't remember the characters' names.
Right, it's been a while.
But he ends up reaching out and calling the clinic, and she's the only one there and only one available, and he's having a mental health issue, and he's at his house, and she's at the clinic alone, and she goes to try and help him at his house, and he ends up killing her. We live in a world right now that is that's full of cognitive dissonance, that's full of mental health crises and emotional health crises and psychological health crises and physical health crises and stress and all of these things which are weighing against us, which are constantly assailing our psychological and emotional bodies. And it's no wonder that, well, like you said, we're all in the midst of this disintegrating culture, and our psyches and emotional bodies are disintegrating with it. None of us are having an easy time with it. And so what do we do? Do we make the choice to keep ourselves safe, to protect our bubble, to keep ourselves out of harm's way, to take care of number one first? That's That's what a lot of people do. It's what a lot of people will stand up for. Or do we help? Do we take a risk? Do we take the chance? And if we decide to take the chance, how do we then keep ourselves safe? How do we keep ourselves reasonably safe? And there are a lot of people out there, like the guy on the bike, who probably is very likely beyond our ability to help. We don't have the experience, the resources, the background, and he probably doesn't have the willingness or interest.
Right.
So what do we do?
It's tough. I don't know about everywhere else. Here in Oregon, because we have a rather mild climate, normally year round, there's a significant homeless population, and I don't think it's just here. I mean, people are one crisis. Many people are one crisis away from finding themselves on the streets.
Yeah, that's across the board, nationwide,
yeah, that's everywhere.
worldwide. Most people are
worldwide.
already. There are many people already on the streets. So
right.
yeah.
And we don't have the services for them, and many of them don't want to accept help. People who have shelters, they say that it takes dozens of interactions with individuals on the street to be able to connect with them and build trust so that they will use the facility. Some of them are afraid of being locked up because they have been. Some of them aren't thinking straight. They could, maybe once were on medication that they can no longer afford or have access to. Many others have turned to using drugs to numb out from unresolved early childhood pain and trauma. We have a culture that is built by traumatized people that further re-traumatizes people, and it's a cycle. And even in a town like this, we're talking about taking one of the many abandoned buildings downtown and turning it into a mental health facility on the street. And the protest was large, not in my backyard, and there is a private school almost directly across the street. And they understand we want to protect children. Of course we want to protect children. And yet, by ignoring this, by allowing people to have no resources, to be on the street, we are creating a dangerous situation, because many people will then lash out in frustration, in desperation. I don't even know what it would take mentally to get to the point that you would either harm another person so that you can be sent back to jail, where, hey, you know how it works, there's a roof over your head, there's food, you at least understand the culture, that happens. And it's not the case for everybody, but there's a lack of resources, and mental health, physical health, lack of insurance, prices going up, rents going up. We're all heading in a bad direction.
Well, so I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were actually doing a spot, a special on, well, not a special, but a spot on inflation and the economic downturn, and they have these people who are financial experts, economic experts, and they're asking the question: Are we in a recession, or are we headed for a recession? Mm-hmm. And they've been playing, these kinds of spots and talking, with these kinds of. They've been talking about this subject for weeks.
Sure.
They've been talking about this
subject for weeks. What's going on?
Right, because the Fed has raised interest rates now 4 times this year.
Right.
For a total of 3.5% increase or something like that. Just in the last 6 months. And one of the economists responds to the question that the reporter, the interviewer asked, and it's like, well, are we in a recession? He says, and he says this, and I actually thought this was actually brilliant. It was actually the answer that I was hoping somebody would say, but he didn't actually follow through on it, which was frustrating for me. But he said, I don't think we're in a recession. Technically speaking, we're not in a recession because the job market is strong. And that was his reason for saying that we're not in a recession. But he said, But I think that's the wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about whether or not we're in a recession. It's about whether or not people are suffering.
Yeah, because the job market is strong because people are having to work 2 and 3 jobs
Right.
to make ends meet. That
Right.
doesn't make a strong economy. That means people are absolutely desperate to try to pay for their shelter, for their food,
Right.
for their necessities, and not making it.
Right. So there's all of this focus on um, recession, economic health, um, uh, stimulus money, uh, stimulus packages for technology firms so that we can start making our own chips, and all of these things are going into this 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 corporate world, and trying to make sure that we have the technological resources to maintain our strength as a country, to maintain um, our viability as a worldwide power, a superpower, our own economic stability, and 500 billion or whatever to ensure that we can start having companies produce our own computer chips as opposed to sending everything over to China or Taiwan or Korea or wherever this stuff is produced. And in the meantime, everybody's suffering. Nobody's making enough money. People are having 2 and 3 jobs, and the only people who are really benefiting from this are the people who own the companies, who collect the taxes, who are running the industry. And we aren't in this position because there isn't enough. We're not in a position because people are spending their money unwisely. We're in this position because there are a bunch of people at the top that have a lot of resources and don't give a fuck about the rest of us, about the world, and about its mental and emotional and psychological health. The only thing they care about is holding on to their money. The only thing they care about is keeping their own little bubble safe. And it's the same decision we're trying to make on a low level, low end, low income, worldwide platform, yet we don't have the resources to actually keep ourselves safe and help other people. But they do. And they're not doing a damn thing. And that really, really actually frustrates me.
Yeah.
So there's my contribution to it.
It's like all of these attempts with the Fed, and I am not savvy economically when it comes to understanding the system. It is one of those extremely complicated systems. It's like the tax code. Nobody really gets it. And if we don't understand the thing because we've so complicated it, how do we fix the thing? It's almost like it's too obfuscational to even make a difference with.
That's because the only people who actually can navigate through that system have the money to basically ignore it.
Yeah, that's the definite impression that I'm getting from the people I know who are doing well, or the people who are high up in the whatever industry they're in, and they're in this bubble of, well, everything's okay with me, so try harder. That's the I saw a guy with a T-shirt, an elder man in the grocery store the other day, and it said stop whining, work harder on his shirt, and I wanted to pull him aside and say, you need to break your bubble, because maybe once upon a time in this country you could pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you could work harder and you could make it. But those days are gone. And there are powers that be that want us to keep thinking that way. Get on the treadmill, nose to the grindstone, work harder, work harder, work harder, because the belief is there's not enough of what we need. Money is scarce and it's finite, and you have to work harder, because we then, who are all working harder on our treadmills, are propping up their profits. And that's not equitable. There are a few countries that give their workers what they need, with benefits, with money, with a percentage of the business. But that's rare. That's exceedingly rare.
And we all have our blind spots. I mean, don't get me wrong. I live a lot better than a lot of people. And I could be more responsible with my resources. That's certainly true. I'm not saying that we aren't all accountable to making better decisions, but if we want this world to actually improve, if we want the mental health crisis to go away, if we want, the economy to actually stabilize, if we want to have the resources that we need to work our way into the next, century, and work the human race into evolving into something that's a little bit more stable and a little bit less hateful.
A lot of bit more.
Well, I'd settle for a little bit more right now.
We need to turn this thing, yeah.
It's going to take people realizing that greed isn't the way to do it. Squandering resources isn't the way to do it.
Well, so all of that, greed, hoarding, accumulating, all of that comes back to the mindset, the belief that we've all bought into because we've been taught it from our earliest age on up, and it's everywhere, it's prevalent, it's propaganda, is that our resources are scarce. And if I'm going to get my needs met, I have to take from you, and vice versa. So we're competing for scarce resources. But the truth is, there is enough of everything that we need on this planet. We need more connection. We need more cooperation, collaboration, sharing, better dissemination, there's that word again, of everything that we have, to recognize that we are in unity. We are not separate from each other. We're not separate from nature. We're not separate from our ecosystem. We are part of it. We're in this together, and we're either going to thrive together or we're not going to survive together. We're at that point in history. It seems to me that this entire system, if you think of a house of cards only inverted, it's upside down, and it's it's going to
like
collapse.
well, not quite like an upside down Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, an upside down Maslow's hierarchy, built out of cards. It's shaky, and it cannot be sustained at the way we're doing this. And we have some people who are blindly ignoring what's actually happening. As long as I'm getting mine, keep it going for as long as possible. And I understand that. I get that impulse, even on the level that I'm living. There's this part of me that's like, oh, just keep doing the things that have always worked, keep doing them, and get it for as long as possible, and when the crisis happens, we'll have to adjust. The thing is, we can't really prepare for what we don't know is coming. We don't know what it's going to take. We had a global pandemic. That did not unify us. I don't know what it's going to take to get humanity to shift out of this sense of separation, scarcity, and competition. I don't know what that's going to take, but we're heading there because this is not sustainable. And the ecosystem that we're part of, life itself, is going to do what it takes to get us to shift to be in cooperation.
Right. Yeah. Nature's going to balance things out, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And so we can either work to help her balance it out ahead of time, or we're going to reap the consequences of inaction and lack of caring, compassion, lack of caring and compassionate responses. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, we're either going to align with life itself, with nature,
or we're going to be left behind.
Or we're going to be left behind. And by we, I mean everybody.
The Earth will survive. We may not.
Yeah, exactly. The Earth's going to be fine. The planet's going to be fine. Humanity, jury's out, whether we survive or not. And it seems to me that the planet, I believe it has sentience, and I believe it is not run by justice, but by grace. Because we really should have our proverbial asses kicked to the curb for the way that we have treated each other and the planet and the ecosystem at large. We see ourselves separate from it, above it, better than it, rather than part of it.
Kicked to the curb, you mean like 12 inches of rain falling in 24 hours in the Midwest, and 7 inches of that falling in an hour?
We are getting all kinds of alarm messages from the planet. This heat wave that's taken over at least the northern hemisphere. Those of us who are in the summer months, this is intense. The wildfires, the ice storms, the tornadoes, the floods, the mudslides. The planet is saying, stop hurting yourselves and everything else. Stop. Yesterday, I met with someone. I was actually in a therapy session, and I believe strongly in therapy for all humans, because we all need it. And we were talking about this feeling of impending doom, like something's coming. And I often question, okay, is this my own conditioning, my unresolved issues? Because as a kid, there was often something coming in the form of punishment. So is that my conditioning? Or am I sensing, are many of us sensing that some things are coming? And her sense that resonated with me is that there are probably another couple big things coming, corrective things. I believe this pandemic was one of them. What's next? The ante gets upped. What's next? And will it work? And will it get our attention? The good news that she was sensing, that I'm sensing, is that life is benevolent, the planet has grace, and that after these couple of coming, looming big things, we will shift, and we will be okay. But I have that same sense of optimism that things will work out in the end, but I don't know that that means humans get to be part of that equation. I can't guarantee that. I don't know what's coming, but
well, the thing
is.
The thing that occurs to me, and we're probably going to wrap this up soon, but we've done several toilet talks on our relationship.
We have.
Right. And so Dena and I, if you have not seen our other toilet talks or listened to what Dena and I have been through in our lives together with each other, we've been together for about 8.5 years. We have gotten together, separated, gotten together, got married, divorced, now back together. And the reality is that we wouldn't be back together if we didn't actually make some effort to do our own internal work. We wanted something, we needed something for ourselves. Discovered that what we wanted was available and inherent in the other person. So, I was in love with this person, am in love with this person, want to be with this person.
Yeah. And it's mutual.
And it's mutual. And for us to come back together, we had to do all our own work. If there's something you want in life, and you want it in a way which is genuine, and you want it in a way which other people around you look up to you, and are impressed or proud, or what's some other words, when admire you for what you do, respect you, that's not going to happen unless you do some internal work. Until you can decide how you can authentically achieve or pursue and then achieve the goal that you want. But to do that, you have to do the inner work. And that's how we get healthy for ourselves.
Yes, okay. I love where you're going.
Okay, that's how we get healthy for ourselves.
Yes, it starts there.
That's where it starts. But if we want to make a better community, if we want a better relationship, if we want a better world, we're going to have to let part of that go and put part of that effort into actually working with each other. Because as long as we hang on to our anger, to our spite, to our sadness, to our grief, to our to the mental health conditions which fuel our psychosis, our separation, we're going to keep getting what we're getting.
If we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got.
So this comes back to
the
work and whether or not we actually try and find a way to meet people where they are in a way which might seem edgy and unsafe. But it has to get done. We have to start finding a way to reach other people. And it's not always going to feel or be safe. It's just not. There is no easy way. There's no safe way, 100% safe way.
No. We're not going to get out of this life alive.
we're not going to get out of it alive, so we might as well try and make positive change.
Here? And I love what you said with that whole thing, because every single thing we talked about today, each of these people I encounter, the world at large, the economy, all of these things that are out of alignment come down to a basic thing, which is that all of us are carrying around unresolved issues within us, and we're lashing out and we're projecting. We're reacting rather than responding from our hearts. We're reacting from our pain, and we need to do our own work and recognize we're all in this together. We are each individually responsible for our own work, and we are like cells of the body. We are connected with everybody, and we're only as healthy as we can be, first individually, and then also to connect. Because otherwise, if I go, oh no, it's just about me, it's only about me and my healing, then what I'm doing is I'm acting like a cancer cell in the body of humanity. I want health for me, and out of that, I can almost guarantee you, when and as you do your own internal work, you will start to recognize, oh my gosh, everyone else is just like me, and I want healing for him, and them, and them, and them, and the people who assault me.
Right, but here's the thing. You made the reference of a cancer cell in the body. If you only want healing for yourself, then what you're going to end up doing is contaminating the rest of the body eventually, because all you're doing is looking out for yourself. But it works
too internal.
Right. It works exactly the opposite as well. If we ignore those pieces of society, if we ignore that we have prostate cancer or colon cancer or breast cancer or brain cancer, if we ignore that because we don't want to deal with it, because that's a nasty, unhealthy, distasteful element of our body, like we ignore the homeless because it's a nasty, distasteful, unsavory part of our society, then what we're asking for it to do is to metastasize and affect everything else in our body, in our society. And it can be mental health, it can be income, it can be racism, it can be sexism, it can be any number of different things which set us all apart from each other and make us fight one another. Anything, any topic. As long as we keep that level of separation, what we're doing is we're literally encouraging the cancer, emotional, psychological, intellectual, physical, economical, political cancer to grow. That's what we're doing.
We're either an element of health or we're an element of unhealth.
Right.
Internally and externally.
And sooner or later, and it already looks like nature's doing it, nature's going to give us chemo. And that ain't pleasant.
Oh, God. To bring that analogy back, radiation and chemo.
Yeah.
Toxins, which we have put out there. I don't know if you can hear in the background.
Yeah, the bagpipes. I've been thinking about mentioning that for a little while now.
This is
Summerfest?
Well, it used to be called Crazy Days, then Summerfest, and then Crazy Days again. And in the town of Dallas, Oregon, we have the state's second largest parade. It's largely filled with bagpipers and ballerinas and tractors and cars, etc. It's some floats and things. And my house used to be the starting point of the parade, but now I'm still on the parade route. So earlier we heard bagpipes warming up in front of my house, which kind of sounds like water buffalo mating while cats are fighting. But now we're hearing actual music, and I don't know, there's some kind of metaphor there. People making weird sounds together, turning it into music, collaborating.
Yes, the Scottish will save us all.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I like your analogy. I like the, if we can see ourselves not only having cells within our own body that have to cooperate for us to have health, we are also living cells of the body of humanity. And then humanity is a living organ
entity
within the body of the ecosystem, and the fractals go in both directions endlessly, and we have to do our part to bring health internally and externally. And I don't know what that looks like, in your personal world. We can each feel overwhelmed
Right.
by the magnitude out there. But if you start with you, because what's important is that we don't react against all of the pain and anger and hurt that's out there, yelling at homeless people, etc. If instead we do our own work and we get centered with our own sense of healing, then we can respond out of the overabundance of health we've already cultivated. So this has to be done. We can't export what we don't have within,
Right.
but we can't stop by holding on to what we've got and saying, I'm not going to let it out. A river or a lake that has no exit, that doesn't have water flowing out of it, becomes dead, like the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea has no outlet, it only takes in, and so it has
It
no
stagnates.
life. Yeah, it has no life at all. We need to be able to give out, and everyone's life I've seen where they've had a transformation and they've done internal work, they can't keep it to themselves. If you're surrounded by starving people and you know the source of food, you're going to share with others. You're going to tell them. So that would be my inspiration, our inspiration today. Do your own work, face your own pain, be brave, and be an overflowing, contagious catalyst for people around you.
Right.
Be a source of health, not a source of cancer.
And that actually brings up a really good point. Is so part of the reason why we decided to start doing these toilet talks is to do just that, is to share our experiences in our life and what little we know with those who are willing to watch and consider what we have to say. We don't know everything. We don't probably know hardly anything, honestly. But we've had enough experience in our own lives to have had some success with overcoming some of our shadows, some of the internal strife, and to create a more seems to create a more healthy internal and external environment for us. And it's really easy to sit here and talk about our lives and what we've done that may or may not have helped us, or may not help the world around us. Not giving any really specific examples at the moment, except for the topic that we started on, which was Dena feeling accosted by many people and feeling unsafe. So you may have something that you want to go after. You may have something that you need. You may have stuff that you don't know how to deal with, or answers that you don't know how to get. And this is an opportunity for you to comment on any of our videos with questions, or with concerns, or with your own personal difficulties that you're struggling with, and not know how to get what you need out of what we're talking about on the videos. But we're happy to engage.
Sure.
With wherever you're at, if we can. Yeah, you can bring up topics. You can reach out privately on a private message, and we're happy to take whatever you want to, whatever your concerns are, or whatever you need, and talk about it in a way which might give answers not only to you, or give you something to consider, but also do something for others out there that may have the same question.
Right.
So feel free to chime in and give us something to work with. For you, for your sake.
We sit here and talk anyway. We may as well talk about things that make a difference for somebody else too.
Right.
Robin's passion in life, if we had to break everything down into sort of a central core, mission, passion, soul purpose, is similar to mine. His is to create a space, an environment, a place in which people can thrive and be and know themselves. And if I had to boil mine down, it would be to inspire others to see and be who they truly are. So these work really well together. These merge beautifully. We both have a passion to make a difference in the lives of others to the best that we can.
Right.
Whether it's just naturally hanging out with someone, talking to someone, encountering somebody at work, in a store, doesn't matter, in a paint class when I'm doing that. Robin has mentored many people who have worked with him and for him on job sites. And these are things we can't not do. And this is just a small way that we can do this. Since we do this anyway, we sit here and talk with each other anyway. And we like to share what we're discovering.
Dena and I can offer an audience of people who can work past any reactions we might have to something that somebody says to us, as long as it's done in a way which is interested in gaining understanding. She and I are both exceptionally non-judgmental in instances where we have the ability to sit down and listen one-on-one to people who are struggling, who are willing to be vulnerable and authentic about what they're struggling with. And by being non-judgmental, wow, I hope that's not a Freudian slip. I don't want to be non-gentle. There are times. But if she and I are both extremely non-judgmental in our approach to dealing with people one-on-one. So if you're struggling, we can listen, and we will provide you a safe space within which to be authentically genuine, to talk about what you need to talk about. But you have to step into that. We can provide the space, but you actually have to step in. Yeah. You have to be the person that does the actual work. So it's an open invitation. That's what I got.
There you go. We have decided recently, having been trained in all kinds of things, improv, theater, mediation, shamanism, hypnotherapy, and just life experience, shadow work, we've decided recently that we're saying yes to the universe's invitation to work with people who would like to work with us. This wasn't meant to be a commercial, but just to say yes. We've done that already, informally, informally with others, and it's time we take responsibility for the training and the experience that we've had and use it to help others. Take that chance, reach out.
Well, and there's one other thing. I mean, so, if you're listening to this, chances are you're already probably, in the liberal progressive, range of political beliefs. Maybe somewhere off the other end with QAnon or some of the things. But one of the things that I'd like to mention to you is that while we tend towards spiritual paths and socioeconomic and political paths, which tend to be more liberal in their well, but this is an important point. They tend to be more liberal in the demographic. I want you to understand, at least from my point, I'm actually a centrist.
Yeah.
I have friends, and I have close friends that are conservatives and libertarians. I am not one of the liberal progressives out there trying to take away your firearms. I would debate the abortion issue with you, but I really truly respect your beliefs, your fears, your needs, and if you've watched this far and do tend to lean right or be fully right, I would still love to talk to you about these things. I would still love to have the opportunity to engage with you.
I've been all over the political and socioeconomical spectrums, and I definitely see truth and error in all perspectives, and I think we need all perspectives to come together to be able to talk about everything. Everything needs balance. Everything needs to be questioned. Everything has validity. So, yeah, we definitely feel more humanistic than anything else. Any other label. We like all the different shades of colors and perspectives.
Yeah, and that might be an interesting toilet talk for another time, is to take actually some of these different things that we're split on as a country and as a world and actually start kind of pulling some of the things apart. So that might be something to look forward to in the future. And we are now approaching an hour, so.
Yeah, well, the last thing I would say, the left is not the problem, the right is not the problem, the division is the problem. And I'm longing for all of us coming together as collective humanity unity or diversity within unity, where everyone counts, everyone matters, and everyone is valued.
All right, so I guess that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful July.
Whatever it is.
Determined it was the 30th.
Last
July
Saturday
30th.
of July, whatever the heck that is.
2022.
2022.
And enjoy your weekend or whatever it is for you.